Okay, this is Fox back again for sound design tutorials. This is a remix of a Darude track, Feel the Beat. It's from about 7 years ago. I didn't intend it to be a remix. I was just flipping through my MIDI files, of which I've got loads of, and this popped up. There's a couple of MIDI files which I pinched. One was called a strings ensemble, one was called a fiddle, and yeah, that was it. Just the two, I think. And then I did what I normally do. I grab little bits out of it and sort of stretch bits out to do pads and bring the lower elements out, the mini clips out for the bass line and bits like that. I recorded the whole thing start to finish with XSplit, which is what I normally do, which is this. But my mate come around and we were messing around with Bitwig Studio, and I had his laptop going into my sound card. So I recorded all of it without any sound. The only sound it did have was through my microphone, which I didn't even know was on. This is what it turned out like. Really muffled. All you can really hear is me squeaking around on a chair. It's a shame really, because it was a real good process for me. It all just flowed. Didn't really have to think about it. I'm getting used to the automation in Bitwig now. Struggled my way through it within this and sort of learnt things as I went along. We're using the different selectors. If you press 1 or 2, it changes from a pointer to a time selector. I got all the way to about 2 hours 20, just under 2.5 hours, and I realised, and I just turned it off before I did a proper mix down, because I realised that I hadn't had the audio on, like a fucking mong. But yeah, anyway, so I was just going to put that up on YouTube like my other full track workouts, but it's not going to happen because this audio quality is so shit. So yeah, I thought I'd just do a quick walkthrough. I'll play the track from start to finish first so you can hear it. Okay, I'll do that now, and then I'll turn the mic back on at the end, and I'll talk you through some of the elements that I've got and just a general layout. Okay. Okay, there you have it. So it was nothing too stressful. Done it the same way I do all of my full track workouts. Just use 1 or 2 MIDI clips and just drag everything from it, rearrange it all. I'm absolutely gutted that the sound messed up, so you can't just watch it, because that's how I pretty much learn everything, just by watching people. And that's what my aim is, to try and teach people what I know. I mean, going from Ableton to this is an absolute piece of cake. If anybody's thinking about doing it, it's still not up to par with Ableton in my eyes. There's a few issues with the grouping and stuff. You can't group stuff. You have to send them to a bus, which is more like FL Studio. It's pretty simple really. You just route that output to another track and then do all your mixing on there. Like I say, I've got a drum bus here. All I've got is a SSL comp stereo on it. That's all I generally do on a drum bus. In Ableton I use a glue compressor. But yeah, I'll just quickly walk you through everything. I ain't going to go too in depth to all the patches, but I'll show you them one by one. The first one I did, which I normally do, is I start with a pluck. This is the string ensemble which I pinched. It looks quite hectic. There are some gaps between the notes. It looks quite jumbled when it's all together, but it was ideal for a pluck. The root note is F3, I think, for everything. So yeah, this is the pluck on its own that I made with Sylenth. Absolutely nothing to it. 2 oscillators, one's a saw wave with 4 voices, one's a triangle wave with 3 voices, no detune, tiny little bit of phase on a triangle, which is 1 octave up. Snappy pluck envelope on the amp, no sustain, little bit decay, and then a pluck on the cutoff as well. That's without the pluck on the cutoff. Simple delay on ping pong, left channel 1/4, right channel 1/8. That's how I always do my delays on plucks. I'll do it without and with. Nice and simple. So that patch like that took me about a minute to make, I would have thought, while I was doing this. Sylenth is brilliant for stuff like that. You don't need to be too crazy on a pluck. You don't want it distorted or any other effects on there at all, really, just a delay. The next thing I did, I can't remember the exact order. I probably went and did the drums after I do a pluck just to get a groove going. I'm not going to go into these, it's just all Vengeance samples. When I'm doing these full track workouts, because I want to get them done quick, I always use Vengeance samples. I always use them anyway. Don't be scared, they're already processed. There's hundreds and hundreds of them there. Absolutely ideal for this. I've got a kick, a clap. That's the kick. That's the clap. The hat loop, quite heavily EQ'd that hat loop, where it was giving me a lot of grief. It was quite distorted and a bit fuzzy. Open hat on the offbeat, so the drums together. Some major EQing on the kick as well. It was really muddy, and again it was a bit fizzy for some reason. I don't know why. I've got no distortion on the drum bus or on the kick. Perhaps it was just a sample that I plucked out with a bit of distortion. I couldn't hear it through the monitors, but there you go. Heavy cut around 120 Hertz, 135 Hertz. I'll do that a lot of times anyway from watching videos from Sadowik, because I say it's a part of a kick that you just don't need. If you EQ'd that on every kick, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to hear it's gone, and it just cuts that groove for other stuff to fill it later on in the track. That's it for the drums. I say this pad I made was with Absinthe. This one was a little bit more involved. Let me find somewhere where it's not cut. which is here. Turn off the charged sidechain compression. Again, nothing to it really. Absinthe pisses pads like this, so you could make one every 5 minutes again. There's that many waves to choose from. I've chose a double saw, stack unison of 2 voices. This transposing is like the detuning of them voices. I always do a tiny little amount. So just oscillate at A. Oscillate at B with it. This one I chose a woodwind 2 waveform. I've transposed it up an octave. Again, detuned it slightly, just 0.0010. Does make a difference. 2 unison voices, again, detune the same amount. Always tend to do that to 21. No mod. Oscillate at C as well. So fractalize, this adds a bit more grit and a bit more fizz to it, but it all gets controlled later by the master filter which we had. I don't think I had any filters on these, I just had a comb. So the comb filter adds a bit more edge to it. I always set the frequency quite low and then I modulated this with an envelope. Frequency, effect gain for a hertz. Or did I? Well, that might be the filter for the etherizer. Yeah, which is that. I've modulated the filter for the etherizer. It's a brilliant effect this is. I don't really know what it does. The only thing I generally do is mess around with the filter. That's all I did, no master filter, just a comb filter. Gives it a comb filter is what it sounds. If you could look at it, it's like multiple prongs up and down. It's like 20 different notches spread across the spectrum. And if you use an envelope to modulate the frequency as it comes in, it gives you a bit of phasing effect. I normally do that, but I didn't on this one for some reason. I just modulated the etherizer. But yeah, that's the pad. Got 2 basses now. I'll go through them at the end. I'll go through this under lead. I can't really go through this. I made it with Diva. It would have been a super saw patch. I've already done a tutorial for that. And then it was quite heavy on the chorus and the reverb, if I remember. And then I just bounced it down. Unfortunately, I bounced it down quite early and I didn't keep the Diva. But anyway, this is it. Find somewhere where it's uncut. Time select. Why is it not doing it? Let's get rid of that. It's quite heavy on the reverb in the patch and chorus, and I've got some reverb on the master afterwards. I had to EQ this a lot to get it to sit how I wanted. It's not going to let me show you because it's vanished behind the... There we go. Believe me, it looks like a mess. It took me about 5 minutes to get this to sit right. I bounced it down real quick. I think I was too heavy on the effects. When I put the earphones on at the end, when I'd listened to it through, it needed all of this. If I'll turn it off while it's soloed, and it's really zingy and horrible. that is a massive cut there. I've never done anything like that before. It's -3 decibels, and it's pretty much the whole spectrum from 50 Hz to about 5,500. I needed to do it. If anything that was creeping above that, it was just pinging and fizzing, and after I listened to it through at the end, I almost got rid of it altogether. I weren't convinced I was going to be able to make it sit right, but never give up, because I did. Doesn't sound too bad now when you listen to it on its own, but on its own it must have been clashing with something else. I think it was this string ensemble, because that's a sawtoothy sort of thing as well. No, it can't be that, because it's not in the same group. Maybe the pad, maybe some elements with the pad. When I listened to it and as the track as a whole, it was bad. So some real severe EQing. So yeah, that is that. I've called it under lead, but it's, I don't know, like a quarter super saw sort of stab. This is a main lead that I made with Synth Master. I've done a tutorial for a lead like this. I called it a main additive main room lead, but I've done it with a saw wave and a square this time, which is different. Every patch I made from scratch, by the way. I always do when I'm making tracks. I never use any presets. It doesn't take me long to get used to a synth, really. I can pretty much bash out whatever I want. So this is what I came up with pretty quick. It's a quite a thin pulse, 4 voices, set to 3, without 3. You get phasing issues without that 3 on. I pretty much use that when I do all sorts of every lead that I do. Oscillator 2 is a sawtooth. 4 voices again, same again, set to 3, hardly any detune. I did most of the detuning within the unison section. 2 voices of unison. Spread the detune around to about +35 and pan the new unison voices to +46. That gives it all the width that you want. No effects at all except in the master section, just a bit of reverb. I absolutely love this reverb in this, it's gorgeous. The early EQ and the late EQ is just like in Ableton, your little mini filters where you can turn on the high and the low. Works brilliant, really, really good reverb. So yeah, this is the lead again on its own. It's got a filter sweep going through it, but sorry about that. Okay, so I'm still getting used to Bitwig. What's that? Restore automation control. That's because I don't know what I've done. Clicked on some automation. I'll let you hear the sweep again quick. Just automated the cut off with inside Synth Master. Nice simple super saw sort of lead, trancey trance. Apart from the virus, this thing does it awesome. Loads of people use silent for their super saws, and that's probably because everybody's got it and it's easy to do, but this is doing a really, really good job for me. It's a ball ache for me to get the virus working inside this at the minute because there's no grouping, and the dials on the virus controller are a bit weird. Rather than click and hold up to increase parameters, as you spin the mouse round on the virus, it's like grabbing control of a point on a dial. So if you want it to turn like 3 o'clock to the right, you have to click it and like swing it round to the right like a clock dial. It's weird. It's the only synth I've got that's done that. I don't know why, but yeah, as soon as I sort the gripping out and that, and I can get the virus in here fine, I'll be using this a lot more. So yeah, that's that. What have we got left? We've got 2 basses now. One of them I've done with Razor. Everybody should have this. Real simple interface when you get used to it. This is the bass line. find the part where it's in. Quite a plucky sort of bass. I always do like a plucky bass because it's double time on the MIDI clip. I've got kick and then the space, the offbeat, I'll split it into 2 normally, and then the sub I'll keep as 1. Just got envelope 2 controlling the cutoff, snappy attack, full sustain, no decay, no release. Dial it negative maximum from there. Safe bass turned on, give it a bit more beef. Mono mode because it's a bass patch obviously, I've got a bit of saturation just to help give it a bit more edge. Oscillator 1 is a pulse to saw and oscillator 2 is a duo saw. Oscillator 1 I got set all the way to pulse. Square waves are good for basses, saw waves are good for transient saw basses as well because the cutoff is taming it. I've got the wrong one soloed, yeah I have. Sorry. You can hear the double time now. So I'll turn the saw off. Helps thicken it up. Same ratio, a little bit less on the colour for duo saw. Ratio 2, this is like a fine tune, that is to the oscillators. You haven't got much choice in regards to oscillators on this, but there's a lot of possibilities with the effects. This Centro and all the other effects in Razor are pretty good. I might do some Razor tutorials. I don't think I've actually done one yet. I might actually do this bass tomorrow actually, just to show people how it is. Okay, the other element of bass I did with Bitwig's very own polysynth. That is a basic saw wave and a basic square. Oh, just a saw wave, sorry, mixes all the way to the left. I've got a low pass filter, envelope generating a plucky envelope again on that. Closing it up. Nothing else on it whatsoever. No LFOs. The only thing I did put is this ladder filter on. Makes a difference. The socket gives it a tiny bit of acidy sort of squelch, but it's cut quite a lot just to help it sit where I wanted it to sit. I normally do that when I do a sub and then a higher part. I cut this one off at about 300 Hz, and then the higher bass was EQ'd. Still going into the lower elements, but I've boosted this part about 200 or 300 Hz just as the other one starts to tail off. So yeah, that's it pretty much. Nice and basic, nothing really to it. I'll put a filter on every track pretty much and just bring them in and out as I do the structure. I've got a 64 bar intro, if you would call that, and then a 32 bar break. I normally do it like this rather than having a big intro and then it kicks straight in. I normally have a break and then a tiny mini build up and then it kicks in. I've got 64 bars of the bass and everything in, another 32 bar break, and then another 64 to tail us out at the end, and it comes to 7 minutes 5 seconds, which is easily long enough. 64, 32, 64, 32, 64. Simples. This tiny little stall and that. So nothing to it. On the master channel quick, I'll go through what I've got on here. I've got a solid bus compressor. Quite a slow attack, quite a slow release. Well, quite a quick attack actually, quite a slow release. Threshold barely doing anything, just ticking over just to keep all the transients in shape. 3.4 dBs of makeup, because this really does crush the audio, this threshold, even though I've only pulled it down 2 from its starting position at plus 15 to 13. It just crushes it. There's no automatic makeup on this for some reason. Every other compressor that I use has automatic makeup gain. It's handy, you get used to hearing it in and then dialing it back to what you want. I've got the S1 stereo imager. I'll play it and show you what this does. I'll turn it off and on. It's the simplest plugin you could ever want to use. You've got a width knob here, dead mono. The wider you push it, the more width it gives you. Just instantly makes all your wider aspects of your sound, like your reverbs and your ping pong delays and stuff like that, and other parts that you got panned, it just pushes them further out. It just helps the track fill the track more. And I've got over 5 here. I've got it. This is just the harmonic exciter. I don't really know what this is, if I'm all honest. I don't pretend to know anything about Ozone. This is the only one I use. All my other plugins I use are waves on my master channel. I think it's some sort of saturation. It just helps give them more presence. And it normally end up with a curve like this. I don't do anything to the bass. It's a bit more than bass actually. It's up, I've got the cut off up to 160 Hz. The next one's cut at 1.5 kHz, and the next one at 10. And I always give it sort of this diagonal sort of slope just to give everything a bit more presence as it goes up. Again, I'll turn this on and off. And on. I've got a bit of Fab Filter Saturn, some basic saturation right on the lows. I normally use overdrive when I'm in Ableton. I aim it at about 120, 130 Hz, dry and wet of about 25% in Ableton. Done pretty much the same thing with this. I've just, the overall band drive, I've gave it 40%. I didn't increase the volume at all. I've just warmed it up a bit with a warm tape. Just helps give the whole lower end a bit more warmness. Everybody wants a bit of warmness. I've used this transient control, which is one of Bitwig's very own ones. It's a lot like Native Instruments Transient Master. It does what it says. It catches hold of the transients and stop them going wayward, I would imagine. The more attack you give it, the less time it takes to do it, if that makes any sense. And the sustain is what you would imagine, how long it holds on to it. I'll do this without and with, see if you can hear it. Very subtle, but you can hear what it's doing. I've got 2 Fab Filter Pro Qs on the end. This one is just doing the general EQing. I watched a tutorial the other day of somebody talking about how to clean up your mixes, and they said a general cut of between 3 to 6 dBs, between 100 Hz and 200 Hz would do it. And that is exactly what I did here, just to see what it'd do, and it did help. These are the elements what I've cut out. Muddy mulch, which no one wants to hear. Turn the EQ on and off. That's the best bit of advice I ever heard of anybody. It instantly cleans the mix up and makes everything sound a lot better, gives everything its own space. I've hardly done any panning on this track, which is really unlike me. The clap and the kick didn't seem to clash at all, which was good. I've only panned the hat and the loop slightly away from each other. Nothing drastic. What's that? 15% to the right, 15% to the left. That's the only panning I've done. I get all the width from that stereo wider, harmonic exciter, and the delays and the reverbs. So yeah, that was just basic EQing, my standard eye shelf. Cut out everything below 15,500 Hz. I mean, you can go a lot higher, but it's only the real high ends of the hi-hats you're hearing there, you don't need it. And anything below 32 Hz, I can't hear that. If you can, you've got better ears than me. And look at everything outside it, what you're getting rid of. Just hear it around there, 33. So yeah, do away with anything that is inaudible, just helps clean everything up. The other Fab Filter Pro Q I've got is my mid side, boosting anything from 1000 Hz up. I'll turn this off. On. Give more presence on the stereo width. Because I'm in side mode, you can cut anything out that you can't hear. I've got it from 200 Hz up there. I'm sure I could go a lot higher. Yeah, just around there, 290, you can start to hear the lower aspects of the pad and that. Again, getting rid of anything that you don't want. EQ in the side only, you can't hear anything. Look at it. Anything that you're getting rid of, what you don't need. If I was in Ableton, I'd put probably another goo compressor right at the end as a preset on there. Catch peaks, I think it is. I normally do one at the start and one at the end, just real subtle, just to tame it all again. And I've just got the Ultra Maximizer on the end. Set an out ceiling of whatever you want. I normally do it 0.1 or 0.2. Pull the threshold down till you get about 3 decibels of gain reduction. That's generally how I do it. I always keep it on 24-bit quantize. Diver option 1 in this is always the best. Normal shaping. I ain't too sure what the shaping is, if I'm honest. Whether it's transient shaping, whether it's the curve of the roll off when you get to the ceiling, I'm not quite sure. I normally just turn it on, set the out ceiling at 0.1 and pull this down to make it as loud as I can. Yeah, that's it. Real straightforward track. So I'm gutted that I couldn't that I messed around with my sound card and I didn't have the sound all the way through it, but hey ho, it was only a trial track really, just to see how I get on in Bitwig, and it did flow quite well. The only problem what I am having, if anybody can help me, when I'm holding command and dragging these around and dropping them into boxes over here, when I was zooming right in later on, and that was done it okay. When I was like zooming in on points like that later on to check they're all at the start point, all of these are at different levels, like only minute, like 1/100th of a step away, but for some reason it wasn't locking to the grid. If anybody knows how to get it to click to the grid a bit more accurate, I'd be very grateful. So apart from that, I think I'm pretty much getting to grips with it. The automation was the only thing I was struggling with. Like on Ableton, you can highlight sections, like you could highlight a section like that and then drag that down, but I can't find any way to do that in this. You can use this time selection tool as a pointer almost and tell it exactly where you want it to go, and you can highlight them and delete them, but I can't find. Ooh. I can't find any way of like dragging in between loop points up or down. I probably should read the menu. Yeah, apart from that, so I'm really liking this. Next couple I'm going to do are going to be back in Ableton again. I might do a tutorial on a couple of these sounds I was really pleased with. The pad was really good for how quick it was, and the bass with Razor. Yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Any questions or requests, if anybody would like me to send them this video that's of me doing this, that's recorded with the crap audio, just so they can watch the whole process, then I'll probably put it on Dropbox for them if they want it. Or, but so the audio's alright, it's listenable. You have to have it on loud, but all you can hear is my chair squeaking and the microphone picking up all the background sounds really. But yeah, as always, check out my Facebook, Google Plus page. It's Sound Design Tutorials. Best way to get hold of me if you want any questions or anything is tweet me at Sound Design Tuts. Okay, I'll play it out again from the start, and then that's me done.